Welcome to the Focus University video on elective priorities within individual student requests. In this video, we will demonstrate how to correctly enter elective priorities. Now, elective priorities allow schedulers to add electives to course requests using a numerical value to indicate which order the elective should be scheduled. Now we're going to run through some scenarios today in this video just so that we can get a better understanding of what elective priority really does. Our first step is to switch our school year to the upcoming school year in the upper right hand corner of our screen. Our next step is to go into our scheduling menu and click Student Requests. We're going to find our student, and in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just look through all of my 6th grade requests to make sure that they are accurate. I want to make sure that those elective priorities are set correctly before I actually run the scheduler. So I'm going to select my grade level and click search. You can just search for one student if you would like to. We'll go ahead and start at the beginning of the list. I'm able to see that the elective priority is already filled in. And I'm just going in and making sure that I have the right numbers up here in the corner and that my elective priority looks correct based on this student's request. Now, a few things you can do. You can click the elective priority header, and this will reorganize this column from least to greatest. This actually helps when you're trying to quickly identify whether this student has the correct elective priority or not. As we're going through, I just want you to note that we're going to give you several different methods. So make sure that you watch the entirety of this video to make sure that you have the correct method for your school and district. We're going through and we just want to verify that this student is going to have 7 full classes throughout the entire school year, whether it's semester or full year, and we can verify that the student actually will have all of their periods full for the entire year. To do that, we are going to count up. I have 7 periods in the normal school day at my school for my 6th grade students. So I see 7 physical requests, which means that anything with a blank or a 1. And then I see 4 alternates, which are these 4 down here. Anything higher than a 1 is going to count as an alternate. And I'm able to see that I have 4 core classes that have to schedule. Those are my blanks. I'm going to make sure that those blanks, they have to schedule. That's when I'm going to leave something blank. It doesn't necessarily have to be a core. It could also be one of these electives. Maybe the student's in a magnet class, or maybe they actually need a specific class. They have to have it in order to graduate or something along those lines. You can leave classes blank, and we'll talk about that in the next example. For right now, I'm leaving these first 4 core classes, I'm leaving them blank. And then I'm going in and I am numbering the next 3 electives that the student must have. And anything that's labeled with a 1 of an elective priority is going to schedule the same as these blanks. So the student will automatically get these first 7 classes. The only catch is these 3 1s here are numbered for a reason. I have backups so that in case one of these 1s cannot be scheduled, then the 2s will be scheduled. And if one of these 2s cannot be scheduled, then this 3 will be scheduled. So you're basically ranking your alternates. So we're just going in and saying 1, 1, 1. These 3 will get scheduled with these 4. These 2s and 3s will only ever be scheduled if one of these 1s cannot be scheduled. Maybe the seat count is already full. Maybe something happened to where all of the extra parameters that were set over here, the student couldn't get into the right class that they needed. So in that case, if something is labeled with a 1, it will be replaced by a backup. If one of these classes up here does not fill, there will be a hole in the student schedule, and you'll be able to find that by looking at some of the reports. So this student looks correct. We'll go ahead and move on to the next student. And from here, we'll go through another example. So as I mentioned in the previous example, maybe the student has a particular program, and in this case, this student has to have this AVID class. So I left it blank so that the student is for sure going to get that on their schedule. If they don't get it on their schedule, if the class is full or something happens to where the student doesn't make it into that class, it's going to leave a hole in the student schedule so that I can come back to this screen, verify, okay, this student didn't make it into AVID. Let me make sure that the student does, or let me fill it myself. If I put a 1 here, that means that one of these 2's could potentially fill its place. So I'm going to leave it blank. And I'll also point out that the student has 7 units, which is 7 periods in my day, which is what I have at my school. We have our next example on our next student. And in this case, my school is not using any 1s whatsoever. So if you notice, I don't have a single 1. All of these are blank, but some of these are electives, and that is okay. If you're going to use 1s, make sure your entire school team, you're all going to use 1s. If you're not going to use the 1s, make sure that your entire school team knows that you are not going to use the 1s. What do I mean by that? If you don't use any 1s here, that means that if you run the scheduler, the system's going to go out and look for all of these classes. If one of them is full or can't be scheduled, then it is not automatically going to fill in that hole with a 2 or a 3. It's not going to fill it in with an alternate. The system is just going to leave a blank. And someone, the counselor or an administrator, will have to manually come in and schedule the student based on their alternate requests. So right now, the student has 7 units or 7 periods in the day, and they have a full schedule if the scheduler gives them all of their requests. However, if the scheduler does not, again, someone will have to come in and manually change one of these to a 1 and maybe one of these to a backup, might have to shuffle around the student's request, or you might have to shuffle around the student's schedule. A few things just to watch out for. We'll go to our next student. This student has 10 periods worth of a schedule. I only have 7 periods in a day. So basically what the scheduler is going to do when I click Run Scheduler is it's going to go out and in the order of the graduation requirements, it's going to go out and look at all of the course requests and then schedule the student in order of the graduation requirements. Now, if the student doesn't get one of these electives, the student just doesn't get them. It's not recommended that you just leave all of the elective priorities blank because as you're building your sections, this will show up on one of our reports as too many requests. And you'll want to make sure that you have at least some sort of elective priority, whether it's your 1s, 2s, and 3s, or if you're just putting 2s and 3s, you'll want to have something to indicate here are the students' alternates. So that's one scenario of something to look out for and make sure that it doesn't happen. Another example of something that you might want to watch out for is doing something like this. People don't necessarily understand exactly what an elective priority does, and so they just number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because that's what the student wrote on their elective sheet. So if I go ahead and refresh my screen just to show you my count, it'll actually show you that the student could possibly be short. And in this case, this student only has 6 periods worth of classes for next year. that's still one period shy, and I want to make sure that the student has the right number. So just to give you an idea as to what this is going to do, it's going to schedule these first 5 and this one. If this one can't schedule, then it's going to move on to the 2. 2 can't schedule, 3. 3 can't schedule, 4, and so on. You have a very small window that any of these alternate classes are ever going to get scheduled. What needs to happen is probably something along the lines of this, to where the student actually has a chance to get the classes that they wanted. So now the student has 7 periods, and you probably just want to shuffle it around to make sure that the student gets the correct request that they asked for. Another example is you need to make sure that you accommodate for your semester classes as well. So if you do have a semester class, you want to make sure that that semester class is accommodated in your elective priority. This concludes this video on elective priority for individual student requests.